A black boy lay face down in the middle school hallway. His wheelchair flipped on its side like discarded furniture. Students stepped over him. Some laughed. A teacher glanced, then kept walking. No one helped. His papers were scattered, crushed, under sneakers. He didn't cry, he just pressed his palms to the floor, trying to push himself up. His body trembled. His silence screamed. Down the hall, a quiet black girl stood near the lockers, still as glass. She didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. The boys who did it, 3 of them, walked away joking, bumping fists. One wore a football hoodie with his name across the back. Another was the principal's son. They didn't even look back. Students around them said nothing. A few pulled out phones, not to record, but to scroll, to avoid getting involved. But what no one noticed was the girl. And what no one knew was that she had been waiting, watching, gathering. 30 minutes later, she would stand up. Not with fists, not with fire, but with something far more permanent. Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Comment below. Lincoln West Middle School sat on the edge of a quiet town, where the lawns were trimmed, the flags flew high, and the uncomfortable things were never talked about. The school looked clean from the outside. Red bricks, bright windows, a digital sign flashing morning announcements in yellow text. But inside, things were different. There was a silence in the hallways that didn't come from peace. It came from knowing your place. Amari knew hers. She had walked the same path to class every day for 2 years, eyes forward, voice low. She was one of only 6 black students in a school of nearly 700. She kept to herself, not because she was shy, but because she knew what happened to kids who didn't. She wore her hair tied back, carried her books in a neat stack, and kept her head down. But she saw everything. She saw how the white boys were allowed to run through the halls, pushing each other, yelling, laughing, while Isaiah was once written up for disrupting the flow of traffic, just for rolling too slow between bells. She saw how the teachers smiled at the loudest white girls but called the black girls difficult for asking questions twice. She heard the jokes whispered in corners, the way lockers near certain students never got assigned, the way Isaiah's name was always mispronounced on the first day, even though it was phonetic. Isaiah was her friend, not because they had much in common, but because they didn't need words to understand each other. He was sweet, bright, funny in a quiet way. He loved space science and could name every planet's moon from memory. His legs didn't work the way others did, but his mind flew. He used a motorized wheelchair, though it was older and sometimes got stuck near thresholds. His hands trembled slightly when he was nervous. Still, he rolled into class every day with a half smile and a notebook full of stars. The school didn't protect him. They tolerated him, and each year the boys in the hallway got bolder. It started with calling him Robo-Kid. Then they began taking pictures of him stuck in doorways. One day, someone left a banana peel under his desk. No one got caught. The teacher said nothing. Amari watched it all. She logged each incident, not on her phone, but in a black leather notebook she kept tucked behind her textbooks. Date, time, location. Names if she knew them. Descriptions if she didn't. No one noticed the girl with the neat handwriting. What they didn't know was that Amari's mother had taught her how to write complaint letters when she was 9. Had taken her to school board meetings before she knew how to multiply. Had taught her that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one no one sees coming. The school had created the perfect silence, but inside that silence, something was growing. And on that cold March morning, after Isaiah hit the floor in front of everyone, that silence began to crack. The day after Isaiah hit the floor, the school pretended nothing happened. There was no announcement, no investigation, no apology. The principal walked through the cafeteria as if the floor hadn't held a child's body the day before. Teachers sipped their coffee. The janitor mopped near the vending machines. Life continued, but the boys felt bolder. Their ringleader, Tyler Hammond, had a last name that mattered. His father ran the school board's athletic funding committee. His older brother had gone to state on a football scholarship. His hoodie, always worn over dress code, had Hammond number 7 stitched into the sleeve. Teachers laughed at his jokes. After school, Tyler started filming short clips with his friends. They called it hallway hazards. Kids stumbling, tripping, slipping, whatever could get them views. Isaiah, of course, was their favorite target. One video showed his chair getting wedged in a doorway. The caption read, "When your Wi-Fi buffer hits 99%. It got 48 likes before someone flagged it. It was quietly removed. No one was punished. Isaiah didn't speak about it. When Amari asked how he felt, he just shook his head. "It's fine," he said, but his notebook pages stayed blank for days. The next week, someone jammed a stick into his wheel spokes while he was in line for lunch. He nearly tipped again, and the tray of food scattered across his lap. The lunch aide stared at the mess, handed him a paper towel, and walked away. Amari watched from the other end of the table. She didn't move. Not yet. Then it started happening to her. One morning, her locker combination had been changed. She reported it. Nothing happened. The next day, her sketchbook, where she kept all her designs for the spring art show, was soaked in water. Pages stuck together like wet leaves. A teacher told her she should keep personal items at home. No one called her a name. No one threatened her out loud. But silence is a language too. Students began to snicker when she walked into class. Her assigned partner in chemistry switched groups without explanation. One day, someone turned off the lights in the girls' restroom while she was still inside. The door locked. She waited there in the dark until the bell rang. That week, Isaiah missed 2 days of school. No one asked why. On Friday, the tipping point came. It was the middle of third period. Isaiah was rolling back from the water fountain, one hand gripping a cup, the other turning his joystick. Tyler and his crew were waiting around the corner. As Isaiah passed, one of them called out, "Careful, Wheels. Road slippery today." Then came a shove. Not hard, but enough. The chair jerked sideways. The cup spilled. Isaiah lost control, tried to brace, but the weight shifted too fast. He tipped, hard. His head hit the floor with a sickening thud. The chair landed beside him, lifeless. Gasps filled the hallway, but no one ran to help. One boy pulled out his phone. Another muttered, "Dude, not cool." Tyler laughed, but even he looked nervous this time. The nearest teacher, Ms. Lentz, who taught English, walked over, frowned, and said, "Are you all right?" She didn't kneel. She didn't call for help. She just stood there like she was asking about a dropped pencil. Isaiah didn't answer. Amari stood at the edge of the hallway. She had seen everything. Her fists were clenched, but her face didn't move. She didn't run to him. She didn't scream. She turned, walked away. Not because she didn't care, but because she knew what came next needed to be precise. Not loud, not angry, measured. She went to the library, sat at a corner computer, pulled out her notebook, opened a flash drive, and she began to upload every date, every time, every detail, every clip she had secretly collected from hallway monitors, public videos and screenshots. For weeks she had studied the building, its blind spots, its camera angles, its staff patterns. She had timed the bullying down to the minute, documented who looked away, who laughed, who failed to act. The folder she built was called Proof. It had over 50 files. By the end of the day, it would be in the inbox of the local school. Board, 3 journalists, and 1 attorney. Isaiah had been knocked down. But Amari had just stood up. Lunch that day moved like nothing happened. The cafeteria buzzed with noise. Plastic trays clattered, soda fizzed, laughter echoed. But at the far end of the room, near the corner table where no one ever sat, Isaiah was struggling. His tray shook in his lap and his left wheel wasn't aligned. Dried orange juice from the spill earlier had made the rubber stick, making it harder to turn. He tried to angle himself into the space, but his chair caught the leg of the bench. His drink tipped again. A few students looked. No one moved. Then, it happened. Someone behind him, no one saw who, tossed a half-eaten sandwich. It hit Isaiah's back and slid down his hoodie. A girl nearby snorted. Another boy threw a crumpled napkin. Laughter bubbled across the table. Isaiah didn't move. He just sat there, face tilted down, shoulders rigid. He reached slowly to wipe his back, but his arms didn't stretch far enough. Amari stood in the lunch line, gripping her tray so tightly. Her knuckles turned pale. A staff member near her looked at the scene, then looked away. She didn't go to Isaiah. Instead, she returned to her seat. Quiet, staring at nothing. Later that afternoon, in art class, she sat at her easel. Her project, a watercolor portrait of a galaxy exploding into color, was missing. In its place was a new sheet with smeared brown paint across the middle. Someone had written "Space Case" in red marker on top. The class snickered. The teacher blinked at it, then turned back to the board. "Accidents happen," she muttered. Amari didn't say a word. She stood up slowly, gathered her ruined brushes, and walked to the sink. Washed each one with careful strokes, dried them, placed them back in her pouch. Then she sat down again, folded her hands, and stared at the blank page in front of her. The bell rang. She didn't leave right away. She waited. Watched. After the class cleared out, she walked past the lockers, past the vending machines, past the gym entrance. Behind the building, the same boys who had shoved Isaiah earlier were huddled around a phone, laughing again. One of them imitated the way Isaiah had fallen. Another held up a mop handle like it was a joystick. Tyler leaned against the wall, smirking. Amari stood in the distance, still, unmoving. No one saw her. She didn't record, didn't shout, didn't confront them. She just watched, long enough to see their habits, long enough to know what they thought they could get away with. Then she turned and walked home in silence. That night, her mother asked about her day. Amari said it was fine. But upstairs, her bedroom light stayed on for hours. On her desk sat three things: the ruined painting, the black notebook, and a new letter, one written in perfect, careful cursive, addressed to the superintendent, with a copy marked for the local press. Amari had never raised her voice in that school. She didn't need to, because now, her evidence spoke louder than anyone ever had. By the time the school bell rang the next morning, everything was already in motion. Amari arrived before the building even opened. She walked through the front office without being stopped, her face calm, her step steady. She wore a simple gray sweater and jeans, no backpack, just a slim manila folder in her hand. She placed it gently on the secretary's desk. Inside were printouts, screenshots of hallway camera footage, photos of bruises and tipped-over wheelchairs, transcripts of conversations recorded on school grounds, statements from other students who had whispered their pain to Amari over the past year. At the top of the folder was a single-page letter, signed by a civil rights attorney from the state's Education Justice Initiative. The secretary looked down, confused. "What's this?" Amari didn't answer. She just turned and walked to class. By second period, the principal had that folder on his desk. His face had gone pale. By third, a reporter had called the district. And by lunch, 3 of the hallway bullying videos had leaked online, from anonymous sources, all time-stamped, all with school logos clearly visible in the background. 1. Clip showed Isaiah being spun in circles while students laughed. Another showed a teacher ignoring a sandwich being thrown at his back. The third showed Amari's vandalized art project, zoomed in on the word smeared across it: Space Case. Students watched the clips during lunch. The laughter faded. Teachers whispered in clusters. Emails pinged across the district. One was marked urgent: allegations and media inquiry. In Amari's 4th period class, her teacher called her name with a strange softness. No scolding, no indifference, just a long pause after saying it, as if trying to see her for the first time. When the bell rang, the assistant principal was waiting outside the classroom. He didn't say what it was about, but Amari already knew. In the office, she was asked to explain her actions. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She reached into her pocket and slid a second sheet across the table. It was titled Policy Proposal, Lincoln West Anti-Harassment Student Rights Charter. It included new procedures for documenting abuse, teacher accountability structures, and a request for student equity council seats. It was typed, formatted, and signed at the bottom, with her full name, and under it, daughter of Tanya Green, Board of Education member. District. The room fell quiet. Later that day, Tanya Green walked into the front office herself. She had not stepped foot inside the school since Amari started attending. Staff stood up when she entered. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten lawsuits. She simply said, "I've read every file. I'll be speaking at the next board meeting. I expect the administration to listen." By the end of the day, 2 teachers were placed on immediate leave. An emergency board session was called for that Friday, and for the first time in years, Isaiah was given a full-time aide. In the hallways, students began to whisper Amari's name, not with mockery, but with something closer to awe. She had never raised a hand. She had never said a word too loud. But she had moved a mountain with silence. Have you ever been judged for staying quiet, only to later prove everyone wrong? Share your story in the comments. The change didn't come with sirens or spotlights. It came with paper trails, long meetings, and the quiet hum of a machine finally grinding to a halt. By Monday morning, the halls of Lincoln West felt different. The students noticed it first. Tyler Hammond was missing. So were 2 of his friends. Their lockers had been cleared out, and their names erased from the classroom rosters. No explanations were given, but no one needed them. Everyone had seen the videos. Everyone knew. In the teacher's lounge, whispers ran like currents. 2 staff members had been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. One of them, Ms. Lentz, the English teacher, had supervised 3 separate incidents involving Isaiah. In each case, she had failed to file a report. Her name had appeared multiple times in Amari's documentation. The administration tried to stay composed, but cracks showed. Teachers started watching students more closely in the halls. Rules were enforced more evenly. Words like bias training and restorative practice were passed around with urgency. Amari stayed silent through it all. She wasn't looking for attention. She refused every interview request. She declined the counselor's offer to talk through her emotions. She just went to class, took notes, and sat by Isaiah's side during lunch. But students watched her now. When she walked through the halls, conversations quieted. Eyes followed her, not with ridicule, but with recognition. The same students who used to pretend she wasn't there now made room for her without speaking. A boy who once laughed when Isaiah's chair got stuck now held the door open for him every morning. No one said sorry, but they didn't need to. Their silence had changed tone. Even Isaiah was changing. He still spoke softly, still kept his books, about space tucked in his lap. But now he looked people in the eye when they passed. He didn't flinch at his locker. He didn't sit in the far corner of the cafeteria anymore. One afternoon, he rolled up beside Amari in the library and placed a folded paper on the table. It was a sketch, her ruined galaxy painting, redrawn in pencil, stars swirling into a nebula shaped like a shield. She said nothing, just traced the edge of the drawing with her finger and nodded once. In the office, the principal called a staff meeting. He stood before the teachers, his face tight. Behind him was a large display board titled Immediate Action Plan. On it were bullet points: mandatory disability awareness training, anonymous student reporting tools, a new oversight committee, including a student seat. Amari's name was already printed next to that position. The teachers listened. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked relieved. In classrooms, things began to shift. Teachers began calling on students they used to overlook. Seating charts changed. Special attention was paid to hallway traffic. Who stood where, who got targeted, who got ignored. A quiet reordering of power was underway. But the most striking shift came during gym class. Coach Dennison, who had once let students mock Isaiah for not being able to participate, stood in front of the class with a clipboard. This week, he said, we'll be rotating roles. Everyone will have a turn in a wheelchair. Everyone will play. Some groaned. Others looked confused. But no one dared complain too loudly. On Thursday, Tyler's closest friend sat in a borrowed wheelchair during a relay game. Halfway through the lap, he lost control and tipped sideways, landing hard. Students laughed. But then, silence. Isaiah rolled forward and held out a hand. The boy stared for a long second. Then he took it. No applause. No announcements, just one quiet moment, heavy with something real. In the back of the gym, Amari watched. Her face didn't move, but inside her silence something was finally at peace. The board meeting was held on a rainy Thursday evening. Folding chairs lined the school auditorium, and for the first time in years, they were full. Parents sat stiff, in their seats. Teachers lined the back walls, arms crossed, eyes tired. Students scattered among them, watching quietly, phones resting face down for once. At the front of the room stood the board, 5 officials, suited and serious. The superintendent sat beside them, his folder thick with reports. In the center stood Tanya Green. She didn't raise her voice. She read. She read aloud the names of the students who had filed complaints in the past year, only to be ignored. She read the emails where teachers had dismissed bullying as kids, being kids. She read excerpts from Amari's folder, letting the facts speak louder than opinion. And then, she invited her daughter to the podium. Amari walked up slowly, her notebook in hand. No papers, no camera crew, just quiet presence. She didn't speak long. She read the first paragraph of her proposal, clear, calm, unshaken. She paused after each line, giving the words room to land. Then she closed the notebook, looked at the crowd and said, "We don't need sympathy. We need structure." That was all. The auditorium was silent, not out of obligation, but because no one wanted to interrupt the stillness that followed. By the following week, change had names. Lincoln West announced a new Student Equity Council, with representatives from each grade. Amari's name led the list, not elected but appointed, not for popularity but for clarity. The school adopted new disciplinary guidelines for harassment, including automatic reviews by third-party staff. A designated disability liaison position was created to ensure students like Isaiah weren't just included, they were supported. Classrooms introduced reflection time once a week, where students could voice concerns through anonymous notes. Art spaces added more security, and lockers were checked regularly for vandalism. In the halls, the difference was small but constant. Eyes met instead of avoiding. Teachers knelt when students struggled. Names were learned and remembered. Amari's old art teacher requested a meeting with her. She apologized, not with excuses but with action. She offered Amari full creative control over a new mural being commissioned for the front hallway. The theme was left up to her. Amari chose stars, not the kind on flags, the kind found in space, burning, distant, and quietly powerful. She painted them herself over spring break. Isaiah helped fill in the background, soft blues and quiet golds. When school resumed, the mural stood 12 feet wide. At its center, a silhouette in a wheelchair, reaching upward. Not trapped, not small. Rising, no plaque named the artist. That was how Amari wanted it. Recognition didn't matter. What mattered was that the hallway, once a place of silence and shame, now had something permanent on its walls, a reminder. Not of what happened, but of what changed. One day, as she walked past the mural, Tyler's old friend, Jared, stopped in the hallway. He didn't say much, just looked at the painting, then at her and said, "It's good." She nodded. That was enough. Isaiah was smiling more. His chair had new wheels and a student aide who actually walked beside him between classes, not behind. People waved to him now. A few even asked about his space facts. He always answered. Amari didn't need thanks. She never wanted applause. But some mornings, as she walked through the halls and saw Isaiah surrounded, not with noise but with respect, she let herself feel something like pride. Justice hadn't come in a courtroom. It had come in quiet steps, steady hands, and a silence too strong to ignore. Months passed. The leaves turned, the air softened, and the school found a new rhythm. No headlines remained. No more meetings. But something had shifted beneath the surface. Something lasting. In Neu. The library. Isaiah sat with two students helping him build a 3D model of a solar system. No one laughed when he shared facts. They listened. One even wrote them down. Amari watched from across the room, her pencil moving slowly over a fresh page in her sketchbook. She wasn't drawing stars this time. She was drawing people. Shoulders hunched, heads raised, hands open. Outside, a new student rolled through the front doors in a sleek red wheelchair. He looked nervous, unsure of the space. But he wasn't alone. Two 8th graders walked beside him, holding the door, asking which hallway he needed. No one stared, no one laughed. They just walked with him. From a distance, Amari saw it. She didn't smile, not fully, but she exhaled through her nose gently, as if letting something go. This wasn't a victory you could celebrate with noise. It was one you honored in the quiet, in the way people treated each other when no one was watching, because real change doesn't start loud. It starts still. If this story moved you, if you believe silence can carry power, and quiet courage can reshape a broken space, share it. Let others see what can happen when one girl refuses to disappear.